News out of Oxford over the weekend as it pertains to football. Not necessarily great news for the wide receiver room, or maybe it is good news for the wide receiver room. I don't know. Chris Marshall, the wide receiver transfer from Texas A&M, has been dismissed from the team for a violation of team rules. Ole Miss released a statement that said basically that and said, we wish him the best in all of his future endeavors. Succinct in the release from Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin was on Chris Marshall pretty hard in the spring game. It was clear that there was talent there, right? I mean, a lot of talent.
Well, even in just a spring game, you could clearly see that guy can and would play in the NFL. I mean, that good. That obviously good.
Yeah. Yeah. He had issues at Texas A&M, and he entered the transfer portal. It did not sound like Texas A&M did a whole lot to prevent that from happening. Ole Miss picked him up, probably knew that they were taking a bit of a risk in doing so, but knew also that they needed talent at that position on the field and were willing to try it out. It did not work. They have moved on. And Ole Miss has a wide receiver that is in the transfer portal coming in to visit this week.
Yeah.
I'll give credit to Lane Kiffin, because some coaches would just be like, this kid's talented and we got to find a way to make this work. He did. He said he's got to go, and if we're not as good at that position, we're not as good. I would like to give a shout-out real quick to, I forget his name, but the Ole Miss fan who spent all day on Christmas tweeting at me about this kid and how great he was going to be. Good job, buddy.
Had a good spring.
It's Christmas Day. Spend it with your family.
Keon Coleman, by the way, is the receiver transfer visiting tomorrow. Michigan State is where he's transferring from. Visited Auburn and Florida State as well. I imagine those two things are directly linked.
State recruited him really hard out of high school and couldn't get him in the fold. Good player, though. Proven talent, too. The guy you look at his numbers, this isn't a guy where you're just sort of, well, he's got talent based on his high school ranking. He's delivered in big-time college football.
The Marshall thing, I'm going to kind of bring the mood down. Forgive me. It makes me sad that you see a young man with the talent and upside that he has, and for some reason he himself or nobody in his life has intervened to prevent him from acting however he's acted, to get booted from 2 different SEC schools before his sophomore season begins. That's depressing, man. I mean, he has the ability of a high-level wide receiver that could have life-altering money for his grandkids, and instead act stupid. It's sad. It's so sad knowing that this guy has that much potential and is just destroying it by being unable to act right. It's a shame. It's
Taylor's
such a shame.
all this time, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the first, and certainly won't be the last.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Keon Coleman, who you mentioned a second ago, 10 games in 2021 at Michigan State, 7 catches and a touchdown. Last year he played in 12 games with 58 catches for 798 yards and 7 touchdowns. And it would stand to reason that there is some NIL money that just opened up with the departure of Chris Marshall that would make a guy like Keon Coleman a target that suddenly you have the budget for.
Oh, buddy.
You'd think.
Light the beacons.
Did some open up? Oh, buddy, it did.
Yeah.
I would imagine, yes, that's the case.
And even though the money spent on Marshall is now just kind of money you lit on fire or flashed on Instagram, you're budgeted already for a high-level wide receiver. Like, you're already prepared to give a receiver that money for the season. It feels like that would be an easy transition to just go from one to the other. You're already prepared to spend it. You may have to give a little extra, knowing that Auburn's involved in Florida State. It is kind of telling, by the way, that his quarterback goes to Auburn. Auburn's got money to burn, and he didn't just transfer to Auburn.
No.
There's something to that, yeah.
Yeah.